artists, musicians, whatever you want to call us. But that doesn't mean that we don't strive for a sort of professional edge, meaning like everything has to be carefully plotted over.
I put on your music and I digged it right away because to me, it was sort of like Tangerine Dream in a way, but it's more guitar based, atmospheric, a bit ethereal, still having, there's also some vocals you do, like Call the Doctor. That's really great. I watched that video. And yeah, no, I really dig your band a lot. You've got a big North American Great Lakes tour coming up. June, I guess you're going to be most of June. Are you looking forward to your tour?
Oh yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
We haven't been out on tour since last fall, and we like to tour a lot. So you know, we had to take our usual spring tour season off to finish this album we've been working on forever. So we're very excited that we have finished it and maybe now ready to go on another tour.
So tell me a little about the new album that you're working on.
Sure. It's called Doomsday Book, which is spelled Dumesday book, named after the 11th century survey of, like, it was like an 11th century census that they did in England called the Doomsday Book. It was the first of its type, and they called it Doomsday Book because it was supposed to be so exhaustive that there would be no more exhaustive list of the people on Earth until Doomsday, or until the Great Judgment.
They must have thought it was coming up soon.
For us, the album kind of reflects, it's a survey of the sort of emotional states we felt during the pandemic, from the lockdown all the way up to pretty much vaccination and touring again, which, you know, back to normal, whatever that felt like. So the album's about 75 minutes long. We're going to put it out on CD first because record production time is so backed up right now, but eventually it'll be a double LP. And we've been kind of just hammering away at it since March of 2020 when the lockdown happened. So we're really excited to see this baby come to life.
I really loved your energy. I've watched, I think, three or more of your videos, and you're very theatrical, and especially very theatrical in your movements, dance movements, kind of. You really go all out. You wear some unique masks. You're on unique locations. Costumes and all that. You really get into you get into the music. I would say that would sum it up, what you guys are doing. You make this music and you're really into it. So tell me a little about your band, like for someone who doesn't know much about your band, like fill us all in there.
You want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I used to do a heavy metal kind of band called Meat Jack, and we were frequently having the Spinal Tap drummer issue, and because of that, we'd frequently be not playing a lot because there would be like, we'd lose a drummer and then it would take us several months or so to find another one and get him up to speed. And I just got kind of bored about not playing during all of these breaks all the time. And at the time I started seeing some other people coming around doing shows, like Joe Preston doing the Thrones and Robert Fripp doing his Frippertronics thing. And I thought, well, man, I don't need to get a whole bunch of people together and coordinate all their schedules to be playing music. I can just make my own music, do soundscapes or whatever, layers of, just weird stuff. And so, I don't know, around 2000, I started doing just that. And then it was called Suck Pig originally, and then I changed the name to Darsombra because I liked that better. And then I met Anne in 2009, and a friend of ours, and she was a video artist, and a friend of ours was, I think in 2010, a friend of ours was curating some sort of like multi-arts event at this really interesting art space puppet theater in Baltimore, and asked if I would, make my music while Anne projected her visuals. And we thought, that sounds like a fun idea, let's try it. And we had such a good time doing it that we decided, okay, let's team up. And then a couple years after that,
2013, I think
about 2013, we decided to bring Anne onto the stage.
Yeah, started performing.
So she, we got a synthesizer and some percussion instruments, and then, and Anne still created the visuals for the shows, but now she's actually on the stage performing as well. And I don't know, just since then, it's been a lot of fun. It's really blossomed into this wacky kind of life art project that we do. So
it reminds me a little of Laurie Anderson, even. You remember?
Oh, yeah, we did her a lot, which is great.
Yeah.
She follows a real conceptual path, and my training was in conceptual art in undergrad and all that. I even went to the same school as Laurie Anderson, which I did not know until very recently. But when I found that out, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. There was a great exhibition in DC that we caught last year that of all of her work, a retrospective, and we really do admire her a lot.
Yeah.
But the conceptual idea, it's interesting with the kind of music we make, because typically, aside from something like Call the Doctor, we don't usually have lyrics in our songs, or if we do have voices, it's, noises and sounds and not really like a language per se, and not a made up language like Magma, but just, noises that create different feelings in the body and maybe in the bodies of the listener. And so with that, there has to be room for, in my creative framework, for a concept or a narrative or an idea or something like that, especially as a jumping off point for creating videos that correspond with the music. I like to have like, oh, okay, this one's about space colonization and that one's about more space colonization or whatever. It does seem to be a lot of space colonization. That's when the bugs take over the Earth and colonize space afterwards. So we have like a third partner that helps a lot, that tends to grow out of the Earth and change the way our minds work sometimes.
Do you draw any lines at all when you guys create music, or do you just totally a blank canvas?
I feel like there's no lines. I feel like anything goes.
Sure, anything goes, but I
don't like a lot of orthodoxy with my music, where it has to be like this or it's not officially that, because we defy genre anyway, so anything goes for me.
Yeah.
I think it's important that the listener keeps an open mind and ideally a sense of humor, maybe doesn't take themselves too seriously, because we're definitely not. We do find great audience with metal communities, which is interesting, as long as they're not too
orthodox.
Yes, as long as they're not too orthodox. Like any kind of dogmatism is going to be tiresome anyway for us, so we wouldn't really enjoy that environment either. But we have found metal communities to be very welcoming to us, probably because there's a lot of guitar solos that happen in our music by nature of the instruments he plays.
Yeah, crunchy guitars, and my past in the metal band. So I think they have embraced this in some metal communities.
Even venture to say, and this might be slightly controversial, that the metal communities are a lot more open-minded to what we do than the psych community.
Even though I think we're pretty psychedelic.
That's just what we've experienced. Psych communities seem to have more rigid definitions of what falls into psych, whether it's the gear you use or the clothes you wear or the haircut you have or whatever it is. And I'm going to stop talking trash right now, because psych communities are awesome.
And we love psych rock.
I'm not trying to say they're closed-minded, but I am happy to see that metal communities tend to embrace what we do pretty quickly.
But I didn't realize there's actual communities. You say there's sort of a community of psychedelic rockers still going. Like, is there psychedelic music festivals or something? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. And it's become a different thing, because when I was younger, psych rock used to mean like Grateful Dead and stuff like that. But now it's like kind of coming back again, and it's not necessarily Grateful Dead kind of stuff. I was never a huge Dead fan, but I didn't hate them or anything, but I just never was that much of a fan. But now there's like all these psych rock fests popping up all over the place, and it's more like space rock. Like a lot of bands like Hawkwind want to sounding kind of bands, I feel like fall into the new definition of psych, with the narrowing definition of psych rock seems to be.
I mean, for a lot of us, we have nostalgia for a time that we went around for, that we don't remember. Then, we weren't even on this earth for. So I get it. Like sometimes it's just, this music sounds cool and I want to make a band that sounds like this and all that. And I appreciate that. It's just for us, when we find something that really influences us, whether it is krautrock or the Butthole Surfers or Black Flag or Rush or Voivod or whatever t-shirts we have on for that day, It's not a narrowly defined thing. Like we might have a song that, will suddenly grab something from the Cars or Gary Newman or Michael Jackson or an 80s rap group called Houdini or who knows what next,
Yeah.
Oh, or Frankie Valli. Yeah, it really, there's no limit. Like it could be, the most absurd, obscure thing that no one's ever heard of, or it could be the biggest pop song you've heard 1,000 times on the radio, like Frankenstein by Edgar Winter Group.
Now, you said you came from art college, Anne? That was...
Well, I went to a women's college, actually, in New York. I went to Barnard College. This was a million years ago. But it was one of a few colleges I went to because I transferred, and the type of person I am, I have a hard time just sampling one thing. And it was, they didn't even have an art program properly, but because it was a college at Columbia University, I could study art there. And they did have a very teeny, 3-teacher visual arts concentration department. So there was a focus on art and art history, but I actually focused on art history and writing when I was in college. And then immediately afterwards went to barber school and became a barber. So that's really? What college was for me.
Huh. She became a barbarian.
Are you aiming for this being a full-time thing, or is it?
It's already a full-time thing. I feel like, I don't know how many, if you...
I mean, we have other jobs. Like, as I said, I'm a barber. I work maybe 2 days a week or something like that. And we teach yoga at a local rec center. We're both Baltimore City employees. So that's maybe 1 day a week, a couple hours, really not a huge time commitment. And then the other 5 days a week, plus whatever seconds we get, are literally spent on production, on making music, on making the artwork, on right now, for example, we're in the midst of the final tip of production for Doomsday Book. I'm about to submit the CD art and the CD printing today. And then there's a booklet, a 12-page booklet, a little Doomsday Book that we'll be putting in the album ourselves that I'll be submitting over the next couple of days in the hopes that we'll have a soft release in time for our next tour in June, and then a real release July 8th. So it's like a cottage industry, I would say, and then beyond that too, the videos, that's what I do as well. He does all the recording and mixing. And then of course,
and I do the booking and book all the tours, and we do a lot of the press ourselves. I mean, we have our friend David Earsplit and Dave and Liz do a great job helping us out as well. But yeah, it's pretty much a full-time cottage industry, it feels like,
And by full-time, maybe DC hours of 60 hours a week, something like that. But I mean, you do it for love. Yeah. Why else would you do it?
Yeah. I think the way you're describing how it's working for you, I mean, that kind of works that way for me too, and probably a lot of artists and musicians and bands and whatnot.
Nowadays too, as the pandemic is shifting, it is a real grind for independent musicians. I mean, he's experiencing this more than me because he's our booking agent essentially. But everybody's playing shows, everybody's going out on the road. It's a lot of competition right now. Venues are really working hard to accommodate, but also, because this is a post-COVID world, sometimes things get canceled. So venues have to change their policies on certain things, like charging room fees before, you even book the show so that they can make sure that they, make their investment for the night. It's tough.
Yeah, it's a lot different. It's a lot different climate. It's definitely, and it does feel like the work has gotten a little tougher, a little harder and stuff, but it also feels like we're more hands-on with it than ever before. So that's kind of fun in a way, because
I mean, you've been an independent touring musician since what, 89, 94, something like that?
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of change over those years.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. There has been a lot of change.
Like I'm now a full-time working artist, whereas before, I think, I have a side job to make money, and then I do this band thing when I have some time. Now I feel like this is it. This is my time, my full day now. So I kind of like that better actually.
Working
some retail job on the side. This actually feels like where I'm supposed to be. It feels so it's good.
Yeah.
That's just very hard.
Not that there's any shame in working a retail job to support your art.
No.
Never
No.
shame in working a job to support
No, I did
your
it for
art.
many, many, many years.
I mean, that's why I went to barber school right after college, is because I knew I was going to have some kind of means of supporting myself as an artist. Because even though I think my video art is fun, it's no means of putting food on the table.
You've got a YouTube channel as well.
So I've actually had a YouTube channel since YouTube's birth, basically.
Yeah.
Which I posted my old video work on before, like as it came out, before he and I even met. I had never, ever checked that channel because now I'm focused mostly on Darsombra. But I'm sure like that one's probably got like 900 subscribers or something like that. A YouTube channel that's been around since, you know, maybe 2004 or 5.
Do you have any thoughts on artificial intelligence? Because that's taking over the news right now, Chat GPT and all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's a lot of controversy.
There's a lot of apocalyptic doomsday kind of stuff around that. Like, yeah, I see people, especially in the art community, people are like, and we have a friend who teaches art who was recently saying, well, why would you bother doing art? Artificial intelligence does that.
And her
students were saying, she was saying that her students, she's teaching, she's an art teacher, and she's saying that her students are saying, why do you bother making art? Artificial intelligence makes art. But, you know, it's funny. And I tell her there's always going to be some people that are just compelled to create no matter what, because they just have to. And so I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Well, let me touch on that a little bit too. A band who I love dearly, and I'm not going to say who they are because I wasn't crazy about the video. They put out their very first music video ever, and the band's been around forever. And it was a video of some dancers that had been through an AI processor. And, you know, the thumbnail for the video looked amazing. There's a great picture. And I go and watch the video, and it's so boring. And I'm sorry, I didn't say who they were. I'm being sweet because I love the band. And there were elements of it that were interesting, but it was, as a video artist, like, I understand how you're really wanting to draw the viewer's eye to the video every second of the video, which might mean a lot of real quick clips of totally different things or something like that. You can't just have a video, one thing that lasts for 5, 10, 3 minutes even, and expect people to get past like a minute and a half, if that, especially nowadays with our really short internet-driven attention spans. So with AI, it's tough because I think, you know, it's kind of like the paint by numbers of digital art where, you know, it'll look interesting, and to someone who's maybe brand new to making art, they'll feel that satisfaction that comes with making something that they perceive as beautiful or just creating something, period. But when I think about how long it takes for me to do a video like Call the Doctor, that took about a year. Our biggest video before that was a video to a 40-minute song we did called Transmission. That took 2 or 3 years, something like that. Because you really have to spend the time, in my opinion, looking at every frame, making sure that everything is exactly the way you want it to be, in my opinion. I mean, we're independent artists, musicians, whatever you want to call us, but that doesn't mean that we don't strive for a sort of professional edge, meaning like everything has to be carefully plotted over. And like trusting a computer to do all that work for me is sort of unappealing. That being said, I'm working on a new video right now for the Doomsday book. It's for like a real short, for us, 7.5-minute song. And there is a scene for it. Like I've already kind of composed the video in my head, and I've got, you know, a film shoot coming up in Baltimore on the 22nd. And I have, you know, a narrative that sort of follows about the Black Plague and false optimism during plague times, because the Black Plague lasted 150 years. So, you know, there was plenty of false optimism there. And there's a scene where I need to have a wolf howling on top of a mountain. How am I going to get this scene? I mean, I could find a person with a dog that looks kind of wolf-like and get it to howl in front of a blue screen and then stick that on top of a photograph of a mountain I have or something like that. Like, there's plenty of old school film techniques that I could use. And I'm a digital artist. I'm using a computer to edit this, but I still sort of follow the blue screen and miniatures and sets and all that other stuff, techniques of filmmaking. But there is a part of me that's like, well, I can just write in an AI generator video of a wolf howling on top of a mountain and just plop that in there. So I'm not adverse to dipping my toes in it. What I'm adverse to is just phoning in the entire project by shooting something really beautiful with great cameras, great gimbals, you know, looking really, really nice, and then running it through an AI processor. Like, oh, okay, that'll be cool, but maybe for like 5 seconds, and then give us something else.
With your upcoming tour, you use projection, so you're probably going to use some of the content that you've made for the concerts, or do you do totally different graphics and things for your concerts?
No, I mean, what you see on YouTube is usually our live videos. Like if it's a music video to a song. I mean, the music video to Call the Doctor has me and Brian jumping around and singing and being nuts. Like when we project that live, we aren't in it. It's just the background images of space. But yeah, the projection thing, I think since we started collaborating, that's kind of been the hallmark of a Darsombra show, is these, like there's a projector in the audience, and then we set up a real simple truss on stage with a big screen and project onto that and project onto ourselves.
And it's not just, oh, it'd be cool, let's put some nice video candy background on while we play. Oh, that looks cool, a swirly ocean or whatever.
Or a train.
Or whatever, any kind of weird horror movie clips or whatever. It's each video that we put on, project is created for that particular song that we're playing. And so if you're in
time with the song,
yeah, and so if you're careful, you'll notice, oh wow, the videos change when the music and the mood of the music changes. They're all composed specifically for each piece of music, which is again composed. We don't do any. I think there's a weird idea that a lot of people think we're like an improv band, that we're just making up all that stuff, but everything we do is almost very super highly composed.
How much improvisation do you do when you do your live shows? Because I do get the impression that there must be some improv in some sections at least. Is there?
Well,
a couple, but not a lot.
I mean, like we have a song about insects called "From Insects to Aliens, the Worms Turn." And the end of that, there's like space for an improvisation-y doomscape, basically, to happen. But
that only usually lasts a few minutes or something at the very end of that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's the limit of the way our video and music interacts. And I can make videos that, you know, have space for improvised music, and there certainly is that. I think they serve an improvising part in transmission as well, in like one of those.
Oh yeah, in the middle where we kind of go crazy. Yeah, for a minute. Yeah, but there's not a lot. A lot of it's actually very highly composed and meticulously composed, and then there might be a little couple of built-in sections where just go crazy for a little bit or do something with whatever, you know, for a minute. I mean,
we're pretty high-strung East Coast types, so improvising, although we love to see improvised music, and it's pretty amazing what some people can do, especially like we're in Baltimore. This is like an improvised music hub. I don't think either of us have a lot of faith in ourselves as improvisers.
No, we improvise a lot when we're just jamming.
Oh, that's how we write
at home, and then we'll usually be, you know, recording it, and then we'll go back to those and we'll pick. Oh, that was a cool section. Let's turn that into a song. Kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean,
that's usually what happens a lot.
Improvisation right. Really heavily used in the composing process, but then after that we kind of all fussy about it must be like this,
and it has to end right at this point.
Right. So when you're touring, are you you're sharing the stage, you're part of a show? Is that typically how you do it, or
it depends where we're playing. Sometimes they ask us to headline, and if we play the town, like, I mean, we've been touring together 13 years?
Yeah.
Right? Since 2010, so yeah, 13 years.
Sometimes we're the opener, sometimes we're in the middle of a multi-band bill, sometimes we're the headliner, sometimes we're the only act. You know, we'll just...
Yeah, we can play for hours.
Yeah, we have a lot of material.
Whether we like it or not. Bring your mushrooms.
Cool.
You're gonna play a 5-hour set. Although I don't think we could do 5. We could probably do 3.
Well, we've done 3-hour sets before. We did a thing at the Auto Bar when here in Baltimore when shows started happening again, but they were happening outdoor in like 2021, summer 2021.
Summer 2021.
And we just did an evening with Darsombra where we did 3 different sets, throughout the night. And
It
so
was a big show. A lot of people came because it was outdoors, and most people hadn't seen a live performance, including us,
in like a year.
So how many albums do you have then?
God, we have to count.
Well, together we actually have a record label. It's called Nictogen, which is spelled P-N-I-C-T-O-G-E-N. It's an elemental term. Nictogen, we're about to put out our 4th album. So that's 4 self-releases, including an EP that's actually longer than most of our albums. So even we call it an EP, it's really an LP. And then there was the one on Public Guilt, so that's
there was
5,
like,
and then there's
it's like
Translation Loss is 6, and one on Exile Mainstream is 7, and then one on Exodus is 8.
Yeah, so maybe about 8 albums.
But then there was a Suck Pig album, which is self-released, so that's technically 9.
Yeah, and some EPs along the way, like Deliriums and Death. That was an EP, and then so there, somewhere, almost 10 records or so.
It's hard to keep count because the thing is, we take a really, really long time to put a record out because, as I said before, we're pretty high strung, and so we really want to comb through everything very, very carefully with not even a fine tooth comb, with like a lot of this like lice combs where the things are right next to each other. Like we're really, really, really careful about how things are going to be. Although we are dreaming of putting out an album of improvised jams next. So we'll see.
We actually do have a stockpile of recordings.
We'll look them up still.
And there actually has been some albums. A couple of albums do actually have improvised stuff on them, but not a lot. It's always usually just been maybe a piece or 2 on earlier albums when it was a little more darker and atmospheric and droney. The newer stuff tends to be more highly composed, I think.
And what format have you been releasing on? Have you done cassettes like some people do, or is it just CDs, or do you even do vinyl?
Yeah, we've done them all. CDs, vinyl, cassette. Our last album came out on CD, cassette, and vinyl, and digital.
Well, our last album just came out on cassette because it was like, what do we call it, a maxi single or something like that?
Yeah.
It was like a 53-minute single. So, but longer than an album.
Quote unquote, technically, we would call our official release album release came out on
vinyl, cassette, and CD, and digital, of course.
Yeah, we'll be doing this next one on all of those formats. Well, I don't know if we're going to do cassette this time around, but unless somebody else wants to pay for it. But we are going to put it out on CD, and it's going to be a double vinyl as well.
I was going to ask, do you have a big LP collection at home that you guys enjoy? And
like pick up the computer and take it over.
It's giant. If we were standing in front of it right now, we'd be taking up this whole wall behind us.
It's like the monolith from 2001.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful how vinyl has had such a resurgence?
Yes.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to become ambivalent about it because I'm also reading some horrible things about, vinyl lasts for 1,000 years and it won't degrade and all that stuff. And,
well, what we'll do is we'll build a house out of old vinyl.
Yeah, maybe. That was a weird little piece of news there.
But vinyl records, that's how I got into music as a child, was like going through my parents' records, even as a little tiny child, 3 years old. And so there's a certain thing about vinyl for me. I stayed with it the whole time.
Yeah.
As a child, as a high schooler, as a college student, as an adult, I've always had vinyl. Never got rid of the record collection. And so to me, that is what a piece of physical recorded music is. There's this incredible piece of artwork and then this giant black disc. To me, it's like an archetype.
Yeah.
And so for us to put out vinyl is so gratifying, even though it's expensive, because there's this sense of I'm contributing to the future waste of the world that I really believe in and love. And you can know the lead out of it if you're really that worried about the waste. Who knows?
But yeah, I never got rid of my vinyl either during the CD boom when friends of mine were like, I threw away all my albums and now I just bought everything on CD. I'm like, threw away your albums? Are you crazy? So I have this giant collection, and whenever we have to move,
it sucks.
It's a lot harder to deal with than a crate full of CDs, I can tell you. Yeah, but we don't plan to move anytime soon, so yeah.
But when you're going on tour, in another month or so. How do you travel around? Do you have a Volkswagen van? I think I saw one in a video. Is that what you have, or something like that? Or
Yeah, we have a Ford.
We have like a cargo van,
We have a
basically.
Ford cargo
okay,
van.
yeah, okay.
It's a cargo van that we've outfitted to be like a nice little home on wheels for us.
Perfect. I guess it's a bit of a grind, but it's also a joy to be traveling and seeing new cities and meeting new friends or old friends. I guess you toured a lot, so you probably see familiar faces when you go touring.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we love it. It's definitely a grind, as you say, but yeah.
I mean, let's put it in context. Like last tour we did was in October. It was all through the South, and I think it was a lot of shows. It was something like 26 shows in 30 days or something like that. Which I mean, it wasn't. We know people who do 45 shows in 44 days, so it wasn't like the grind. But we're grown ups. It was work, and we were reading Henry Rollins's "Get in the Van" on tour, which, if you aren't familiar, it's like the tour journal that he kept for the 6 years that he was in Black Flag as a singer. And his entries, he's a sort of dramatic character, and his entries are pretty dramatic, like, oh, today at the show I got spit on by 100 people and somebody kicked me in the face, and then somebody slashed all the tires on our tour van or whatever, and just like all this drama. And I mean, it's a punk scene in the 80s. Drama is to be expected. And we think, well, our day was hard. The venue didn't comp us a meal. We struggled. And then Henry was suffering. We read from the Book of Henry, as we called it.
Yeah. And it helped put things in perspective and make us feel like, oh, wow, we got it pretty easy. Because these guys blazed the trail that now everybody can tread much easier than they had to.
Beyond that, too, it's just the two of us. We have a comfortable bed in the van. We tend to have pretty common interests. So there's like, okay, we'll wake up and say, all right, I feel dirty. You feel dirty. Let's go to the truck stop and take a shower. Or, oh, let's just go swimming in this beautiful, pristine, spring-fed lake or whatever in Oregon or something.
Yeah, nice.
I think a lot of bands don't necessarily have that comfort or privilege. So
right.
Being very, very close friends and cohabitators.
Yeah, and because we've done this so much, we just kind of have a knack for building these tours to make them sustainable and pleasurable to us. Because my old band, we would do 30 shows in 30 days, and all you would see was the club, and then whoever's floor you were crashing on that day, and then the van, and then the trucks, the truck stops or the gas stations that you'd stop the gas up at. And everyone would be just in a shitty mood real quick, and definitely by the end of the tour, no one wanted to see each other. Maybe some members would break up afterwards, like, okay, never doing that again. And so I don't want a repeat of that. If I'm going to do this and into my old age, I want it to be, fun and pleasure, as fun and pleasurable as we can make it at the level we're doing it at. So,
hey, Brian and Ann, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the Zoom's going to end any second now.
Okay.
So I have to cut it. Anyways, as you can see, of course, Zoom cut us off. I've only got the free version, so 40 minutes is it. But that's a nice length for an interview, don't you think? That was Darsombra, and send my thank yous out to Ann and Brian for doing this interview. It was fun to get to know you guys. Make sure you check the links down in the description below. So that's it, spiraling out. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.